Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Helen Diller Family Awards for Excellence in Jewish Education. My name is Irina Kovriga. I'm the immediate past chair of Diller Education Award Selection Committee, and I will be your host for this evening. On behalf of Jewish Community Federation and the Endowment Fund and Helen Diller Family Foundation, thank you so much for being here tonight. This is the 20th year of the award, and we cannot be more excited to celebrate our 4 amazing winners. They and so many countless others deserve to be recognized and celebrated for their tireless work on behalf of our Jewish community. Thank you so much for being here with us. This year has been nothing like we could ever imagine, and tonight's ceremony is adapted for the new times. We are gathered virtually, but we are still together as a Jewish community. And tonight, we'll honor our 4 award recipients and hear about the incredible work they are doing. After, we'll learn with Rabbi Ed Feinstein on the topic, Educating for Resilience, the Lessons of Jewish History, followed by a panel with the awardees, moderated by Federation Chief Executive Officer Jeni Grossman. To share a little bit about technology for tonight's event, the award ceremony and keynote will be in webinar format. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat box on the right side of your screen, and somebody from our team will reach out with help. And now I'm honored to welcome Jackie Safir, president of the Helen Diller Family Foundation. Jackie will be followed by Jeni Grossman.
As president of the Helen Diller Family Foundation, it is my pleasure to welcome you here and to celebrate this year's extraordinary winners of the Helen Diller Family Awards for Excellence in Jewish Education. I'm pleased to say that this is the 20th year that we've been able to honor and spotlight Bay Area Jewish educators through this award. And this year, we are particularly grateful for the creative work of educators during this challenging time. My mother, Helen Diller, cared deeply about the future of the Jewish community, and she understood that educators played a critical role in making sure that our next generation is empowered, knowledgeable, and educated. On behalf of the Foundation, I applaud this year's awardees and the institutions that support your success. Mazel tov to Efrat Simhi-Aloni, Lisa Bialkin, Isaac Zones, and Jeni Markowitz Clancy. I also want to thank this year's selection committee, chaired so beautifully by Karen Kaufman-Perlman.
Thank you for those heartfelt words, Jackie. We're so blessed to be in our 20th year of this important partnership with the Helen Diller Family Foundation. As many of you know, Helen Diller showed incredible leadership and vision in so many different ways, including what she determined to shine an important spotlight on the achievements of Jewish educators. Together, we've now honored more than 80 Jewish educators and awarded over $1 million. We do so every year because Jewish education is an integral part of who we are as a community, and excellent educators are at its heart. I feel so fortunate to have had my life enriched by Jewish educators since I was 12 years old. At that point in my life, Reuven Jaffe of blessed memory memorably taught us that we were not just meant to survive as the first generation after the Holocaust, but we were meant to deeply enrich our lives through the gift of Jewish life. I've been opening and appreciating that gift ever since, thanks to him and many others. These awards are facilitated by a strong partnership between dedicated lay leadership and committed staff. I echo Jackie's words and also would like to thank the volunteers on the selection committee and Karen Kaufman-Perlman, the committee's chair. You have all approached this important task with thoughtfulness, care, and respect. To the staff who supports this award process, thank you. I'm grateful for all you do. And to the recipients, we are inspired by your creativity, commitment, and passion for this sacred work. May you continue to go from strength to strength. As you all know, the timing of this year's ceremony falls during the month of Elul, and catches us in a reflective mode in advance of the high holidays. We're living through extraordinary and extraordinarily difficult times. In addressing these times, we clearly don't only need educators. We need firefighters, nurses, maintenance workers, therapists, and many others. But we also, and I would argue especially, need great educators to build our capacity to understand our challenges and to find a path forward. I wish you all a reflective month of Elul and good high holidays to follow.
Jeni, thank you so much for your thoughtful words. And now we are so excited to show the impact our 4 award recipients are having in their community. The following film will give you an idea of the care and creativity with which they approach their learners.
There's an incredible magic that can happen when we come together in community with our children in our laps, getting ready for Shabbat, connecting to one another, and having a place to experience the real joys that being a parent within a Jewish community can offer. The Nest is a parent resource center designed with the goal to explore parenting, Judaism, and community in a warm, welcoming environment.
Jeni is really the heart of the change of the young families in our Jewish community. She had a special way of connecting people that was just beautiful, and she just made sure that every single family that walked through her door knew that she was available to them, that she was excited to see them, that she wanted to see them again.
Whether they have been practicing Judaism for a very long time, or it's their very first time lighting candles. It's my job to make sure they feel sure-footed. We started out with 4 families, and that community grew and grew from 4 families to 40 families, and we grew it together.
She's made me want to become a community member and also a community leader. Over a course of 5 years, we really grew together.
Families like Kimberly Shalom's wanted to be stakeholders. That's what the community that we're building is all about, and that's my goal. Jewish family education is my life work, and to have the opportunity day in, day out to connect with this community through the incredible pathway that Judaism offers us is a gift that will sustain for a long time to come.
I teach Hebrew with a lot of love, with a lot of passion. My dream, my goal is that my students will have the same passion and will develop a pride of their ability to use the language.
Being her student of Hebrew, but also her student of life and her student of Judaism, it has been one of the biggest blessings I could have ever asked for. She allowed her joy for the language to enter the classroom every single moment.
I'm teaching through drama, music, dancing, singing, games.
Hebrew is a vehicle for loving life. It means singing, it means talking about Israel, it means art and reading and writing.
It's a real joy to see them improving and developing their language. And also the real joy is that they continue.
When quarantine started and I had really wanted to continue learning Hebrew, I called her up one day and I was like, do you want to teach me?
Ariella was longing to reconnect with the beautiful Hebrew. Any lesson, it's full of joy.
It has really fostered a space where my Hebrew has been able to evolve beyond what I could have ever imagined 4 months ago.
Ariella feels very confident to talk in Hebrew, to read in Hebrew. She expresses herself in such a high level. I think she feels super confident.
It is more than class. It is more than a teacher and a student. This is a woman who cares so deeply about who I am as a person. Every Monday and Thursday after I get off the phone with her, I feel full with a renewed connection to who I am, where I come from, and then also where I'm trying to go.
Tzedek, tzedek, tirdo.
Well, I love Jewish music. I love getting to connect with my culture and with Torah. It brings me alive, and I love getting to share that with other people. When I get the opportunity to lead a group in song or prayer, and I can feel that connection happening, I feel like a conduit for something that's bigger than me and bigger than us.
Isaac brings accessibility to Judaism for people who may have not found a place for Judaism in their lives prior. One of the most amazing sights I've seen with Isaac as a song leader is at Camp Tawanga on Friday night. It is so wild that you can feel the ground shaking, and it's a totally ecstatic experience in Judaism. I wanted to be a song leader, and so he took me under his wing and taught me everything I know about song leading.
I can tell I've made an impact on helping grow the people who are doing this work. And I've watched some of them flourish into confident, proud Jewish musicians and song leaders.
He has become such a community leader in the Bay Area, and every 12-year-old and 13-year-old wants to have Isaac play music at their B'nai Mitzvah. He really brings joy to a Jewish space.
One communal experience that I've gotten to help shape that I'm really proud of is the Erev Rosh Hashanah service in Tilden Park. And it started as a very small group, and every year the numbers would double to the point now where there's well over 1,000 people that have been coming. When I'm in front of a group of people and things feel alive, I do feel like I'm just locked into the moment. That's how I want to be living my life. I want to be connecting with people, and I want to lose myself to Judaism through song and through music.
The first thing that we do in my class is we board a plane and we take off to the land of Israel. My mom was an opera singer. She actually was first noticed when she was in the Israeli army. Her singing and her love of Israel were really part of our daily life. I'm sharing who I am with the kids.
Lisa really opened our kids' eyes and hearts to all the beauty and excitement of Israel.
She's very passionate about what she teaches, which I think is something that all teachers should be. Stops it from being like reading out of a textbook.
It's really important to me that the kids feel a connection. When we're in Tel Aviv, we create a shuk in the classroom, and they actually become buyers and sellers. They learn how to bargain, and the kids really love that. When we go to the Western Wall, we actually go to the live webcam, and we see people moving around and praying, and we pray with them.
We all got to write wishes, and actually someone was going to Israel that year, so they took them to the Western Wall.
It was magical to watch the kids make the connection, to be at the Western Wall, to be at the top of Masada, to be floating in the Dead Sea.
We have a spa day, and we have Dead Sea mud. They put it all over their faces. I also have salt crystals from the Dead Sea that I brought back.
She had all sorts of activities. I could just feel her excitement about it.
It's my hope that the kids have learned so much about Israel that they will want to go there, that they want to explore this land.
When we finally went, all 5 of us, in some ways they were our guides.
I'd actually learned about the places, and now I was here actually being able to experience and touch them. It almost felt familiar.
It made it so much more meaningful, and it's a real gift that she brings to all of us.
Wow, how truly extraordinary to see the impact these recipients have had on their communities. On behalf of the Helen Diller Family Awards Selection Committee, it is my honor to present this year's recipients of the Helen Diller Family Award for Excellence in Jewish Education. In the early childhood category, Jeni Markowitz Clancy, the Jewish Family Programs and Engagement Manager at the Peninsula Jewish Community Center. In the day school category, Efrat Simhi-Aloni, the Hebrew Studies Coordinator at Oakland Hebrew Day School. In the Jewish Communal and Experiential category, Isaac Zones, who is the music educator at Congregation B'nai Shalom. In the Congregational and Supplemental category, Lisa Bialkin, who is a teacher and B'nai Mitzvah tutor at Congregation Rodef Shalom. We as a community are truly blessed by your skills and your ability to be resilient in the face of challenges. Never has that been more apparent than these last 6 months. I would also like to offer a word of gratitude to our nominators. All eligible educators are nominated by a supervisor, administrator, colleague, or community member. Thank you for recognizing their outstanding achievements. And of course, if you know an excellent educator, please nominate them for the 2021 awards. I am also happy to announce a new prize funded by the Helen Diller Family Foundation to be presented to a Jewish educator in years when the criteria are met. The Helen Diller Prize for Lifetime Distinguished Achievement. The prize is an award of $36,000, which provides $18,000 to the recipient and $18,000 to an educational program selected by the recipient. Nominations for all Helen Diller Educator Awards will be open from November through February of 2021. Please visit jewishfed.org/Jewish Educator Awards for more information. Thank you again to all those who make these awards possible. And thank you to our recipients for your efforts to sustain a bright future for our community's learners.
Thank you, Karen, for your wonderful leadership. And now it is my pleasure to welcome our keynote teacher, Rabbi Ed Feinstein, the senior rabbi of Valley Beth Shalom in Encino, California, a lecturer in the Ziegler Rabbinical School of the American Jewish University, and a celebrated author and teacher. During the session, you can share thoughts and questions with our presenter by posting those into the chat box to the right of the screen. If you run into any technical issues, you can also use the chat feature, and our team will reach out to you. I now welcome Rabbi Feinstein.
Afternoon. I want to begin by saluting the Helen Diller Family Foundation and the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment for your support and your commitment to Jewish education. The Talmud, of course, teaches that educators are the foundation of a community, and your recognition of pioneering educators, innovative educators, is something truly wonderful and remarkable. And to the 4 honorees this evening, my congratulations, my wishes of Yasher Kochachem, may your strength only increase, Chazak v'nit chazek, may your creativity bubble over to the students you teach and to the colleagues you share the world with. Congratulations to you all. I grew up in suburban America, suburban California, and like many of my generation, I attended an afternoon Hebrew school. I was that very weird kid who actually loved Hebrew school. Not because I was so studious or religious, on the contrary. I have 3 younger brothers, and Hebrew school was the best place to meet girls. So whoever I would be sat next to in Hebrew school, I would chat up. And the teacher would look at me, and all of our teachers were former Israeli army sergeants, and she would look at me, scowl at me, and she'd say, Yitzchak, Sheket. Yitzchak is my Hebrew name, and Sheket, as you can gather, means be quiet. And I'd say, Ken Mara, of course. And then I'd chat some more, and I would get a second, Yitzchak, Sheket. And I'd say, Ken Mara, of course. And I'd go on chatting, and then finally she would look at me and shake her head and say, Yitzchak, La Sifriya. Go to the library. Now, the synagogue had a pretty good library, and I read my way through that library, and that's where I really learned to love Jewish books. But it was once during my 3rd or 4th grade year that I got my first Yitzchak Sheket, and my second Yitzchak Sheket, and the 3rd one, La Sifriya, and I picked up my books as was my habit, and I was ready to go when I got to the door and heard that one word that drives a chill through every student's spine. She said, Rega, which means wait a second. Kain Mara, what can I do for you? What would you like? She said, do something for me in the library. Of course, what would you like me to do? She said, write a book report. Write a book report. Okay, I can write a book report. I know how to write book reports. I write book reports all the time. Any particular book, or can I choose one? And then she gets a conspiratorial smile on her face, and she says, yeah, the Bible. Write a book report about the Bible. I looked back and said, you can't write a book report about the Bible. She said, it's a book, right? Well, yes, good. Then write a book report, have it ready by 6 o'clock. So off to the library I go with a big piece of 3rd grade paper and a number 3 pencil to write my book report. Well, I did cheat a little bit. I took down a copy of the Torah, and I wrote my name at the top of the page, Yitzchak Sheket. And then you remember the pieces, the elements of a third grade book report? Name of the book, the Torah. So far, so good. Author of the book. Okay, unknown. That's safe. Setting of the book. Somewhere in the Middle East. Main character of the book. Well, the main character of the Bible is a God. Then the plot of the book. Climax of the book. Resolution of the conflict. And the all-important, would you recommend this book to your friends? You know, we don't read the Bible that way. We typically read the Bible for a particular verse, a portion of the Torah, a section, a story, a narrative. We very rarely ask ourselves what that book report asked me. What is the narrative arc of Scripture? For that matter, we don't ask that question about Judaism in general. What is the narrative arc of our tradition? What does our tradition say? How would you summarize it in, well, a book report? And I realize I've spent most of my adult life answering that question, trying to finish that book report from my morah, from my teacher. What is the narrative arc of the Bible? And what is the narrative arc of Judaism? Well, if you open the Bible, you discover that the opening chapters are a drama in 3 acts. We're introduced to a character in the very beginning named God. And what do we know about God? We don't know where God came from. We don't know what God is made of. We don't know anything about God except 2 things. 1, God creates, and 2, God dreams. God creates a whole world. But that whole world is motivated by a divine dream, a godly dream of oneness. And at the end, the climax, the epitome of creation is a garden. Now consider that for a minute. God creates a garden. Why a garden of all things? Why not a metropolis or a castle, shopping mall? Why a garden? Because a garden is the most powerful symbol of symbiosis, of the meeting of artifice and nature. In a garden, everything supports and fertilizes everything else. Everything is one. God's idea of a garden is God's dream of the world we would inhabit, a world of oneness, a world of symbiosis, a world of community and cooperation. And into that world of oneness, into that garden, God places the one creature who could share the world with God, the human being, and charges that human being with the task of tilling it and tending it, l'shamra u'la'avda, to protect the oneness of the garden. And then God blesses it all. Over and over again, God says, Vayar Elohim ki tov, and the last time ki tov me'od. It was very, very good. And then God takes a day for Shabbat to enjoy the oneness that God has created. But that's where the drama gets difficult. Because just as God is a creator, we are created in the image of God, and we are creators too. And no matter where you put a human being, no matter how benign the circumstances, if that human being cannot control the conditions of his or her own existence, they're going to rebel. And we rebelled against it. We wanted our own world. And so we rebelled against God, asserted our own creative control over the world, and we're thrown out of the garden into the world to create our own world. But of course, the more we want to create for ourselves, the less room we have for one another. And we fill the world with violence. And when the first act of the drama is over, God is regretting having created any of it. The world filled with violence and with evil. And God is ready to destroy it all. And just before he's about ready to destroy it all, God's eye catches one human being with moral promise. And his name is Noah. I couldn't create a human being to share my dream of a world of oneness. Maybe I can choose one. So God chooses Noah and starts again. He puts Noah on a boat with all the animals in the world. And what a wonderful image. What a wonderful image of a small planet crowded with life, and we are responsible for guiding and navigating and protecting it. What a wonderful image of oneness. Who would you have to be to survive on that ark? And then once again, when the human being exits the ark and fills the world We fill the world with violence, with selfishness, with coarseness, and with evil. And once again, God is despondent. I couldn't create a human being to help me build a world of oneness. I couldn't choose a human being to help me build a world of oneness. Maybe I can teach one. Act 3, enter Abraham. Now, there's a long midrashic tradition about why God chose Abraham, who Abraham was, but I know the answer to the question. He chose Abraham because his name began with an A. He was first in line. And that really is what the story is about. He was chosen randomly. You see, God wants to choose one human being, wash him clean of his culture and his assumptions and his identity, give him the task of filling the world with blessing, with oneness, and let him see what he can do. So God comes to Abraham, and in the 12th chapter of the book of Genesis, we find the mandate. This is why we Jews are in the world. Vayomer Adonai el Avram, God says to Avram, Lech lecha me'artzecha, leave your native land, leave the place of your birth, leave your father's house, not just physically, but leave the culture, leave the ethnicity, leave the nationalisms, leave the ethics that you grew up with. I want you to begin again, clean. And I will come to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you. I'll make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you. Well, the Bible knows that you've read Joseph Campbell. And the Bible knows that you know from Joseph Campbell that that same promise occurs in every world literature. In the myths of the Greeks and the Romans, in the myths of the Mesopotamians, in the traditions of the Native Americans, of Australian Aborigines, in the Norse myths and the African myths, in every world mythology, a god comes to a hero and says, be mine, be my guy. Be my guy, and I will bless you, and I'll make you famous, and I'll make you important, and together we will conquer the world. In only one world mythology does the story end differently. This one. Because in this one, God does not say we will conquer the world. In this one, he says to Abram, Heye bracha, be a blessing. That's your task in life, to be a blessing. Now, I certainly know what it means to say a blessing. What does it mean to be a blessing? Is there anybody in your life, in your transactions in the world, that was there for you at a certain moment, or has been open to you when you needed them, or has been available and kind and generous and compassionate, empathetic and loving, so that you would say, that person, she's my blessing. That one, he's my blessing. We are to be a blessing. But whom? It doesn't say what you think it's going to say. You think it's going to say, God is going to say to Abram, be a blessing to me. But that's not what he says. He says, V'nivrachu b'cha kol mishpachot ha'adama. You will be a blessing to all the families of the earth. That's the job description of the Jewish people. And I want to stop for just a moment because I think this is terribly important. Because we don't teach the narrative arc of all of Judaism, because we don't grasp the deepest message of this Jewish tradition, we might forget this. I think it's wonderful that a kid stands up in my synagogue and he's a bar mitzvah and he tells me about all the accomplishments he can't wait to make. And I come over and I put my arm around this young person and I say, I bless you with all of that. But you know something? You've been taught to pursue success. And my greatest fear is not that you're going to not be a success. Of course you're going to be a success. You have all the advantages of the culture. Great family, wonderful education, a great head start in the world. You have ambition and intelligence. You have all of the advantages. My great fear is that the success you've been taught to pursue is too ordinary, too small. It's not worthy of you. Heye bracha, be a blessing. It is our task to teach the young people and the families who come into our circle that their task in life isn't just material success. And I reward material success. I think it's wonderful. I like having nice things. All of us do. I like the security, but that's not what life is for. Life is for being a blessing. Life is for living life so that every human being who meets us recognizes that we are a blessing. And if that is the mandate of the Jewish tradition, if that is the mitzvah, if that is the commandment that all of us are endowed with, and understand what that's saying. This is a deep and powerful statement of a Jewish confidence in human efficacy. If we can bless the world, we have the power to change the reality outside. If we can bless the world, we can live lives of dignity and meaning. The purpose of the Jewish faith was ultimately to raise the horizons of human moral possibilities and to help human beings understand that it's only in accepting that mandate to be a blessing will you find a life of dignity, a life of meaning, a life of purpose, a life that really matters. The wonderful Rebbe, the founder of Chabad Hasidism, Reb Shneur Zalman of Ladi, once told his Hasidim, he said, in every life of every religious master, there are moments when we lose faith. There are moments when we're disconnected from God, moments when we're disconnected from the deepest parts of ourselves, moments when we are disconnected from faith and we despair. What do you do with those moments, he said. What do you do, he said? You go out into the world and you do one act of selfless goodness. Heal one friend, raise one soul, teach one child, fill one gap in the environment with goodness and beauty. Do one act of selfless goodness, taught the Rebbe, and you will feel the power of God, the presence of God in your hands and in your heart. His disciple, Rav Abraham Joshua Heschel, taught that the only way to come to know the true capacity of the self is to do a selfless act. It's only in the selfless act that we understand what we are capable of, that we indeed are capable of doing blessing, of bringing blessing in the world. And whatever scale you choose to influence the world, that's the purpose you've been brought into the world for. Whether it's something very private, you shop for a neighbor who's shut in, you pick up the phone and call someone who's alone, or whether you go outside and you march for social justice, or whether you work in a food bank, whether you teach school, whether you work in a hospital, whether you heal with your hands and whether you teach with your heart, whether you organize the neighborhood, whether you negotiate peace, whether you stand up for goodness in the world, whatever scale you choose to do it on, your mandate is to Hayeh Bracha, be a blessing. That's the measure of success of a Jewish life. And dear colleagues, dear friends, that's the measure of our success as educators. When we see our students go into the world and demand that the world change. I have to tell you that the opposite of Judaism is not secularity or to live a life of the profane world. The opposite of Judaism is not atheism. The opposite of Judaism is to say the way the world is the way it must be. It is inevitable, it is inexorable, it can't be changed, and there's nothing we can do about it. The opposite of Judaism is moral surrender. The one who closes his eyes and closes her hands in cynicism and skepticism and despair and gives up and says, it's not my task anymore, well, that's the end. That's what we are not. And so what do we teach our children? Go into the world and throw yourself with all your capacities against the evil of the world and bring healing and bring hope and bring goodness to bear. And when it breaks you, because it will, because the world is filled with so much evil and so much darkness, just watch the news. When it breaks you, come back to the synagogue, wrap yourself in a talit, and pray to God. And you never ask God, fix it for me, God. No. You say to God, I'm exhausted, I'm scared, I'm empty. Fill me up, God. Give me the strength to go out and do what you asked us to do. Hayeh Bracha, to be a blessing. In this moment of, well, near apocalypse, when the sky is orange and the air can't be breathed because it's filled with smoke, when there's a global pandemic, an economic catastrophe, social upheaval, political turmoil, anti-Semitism, environmental disaster, when there's so much hate about us and so much rage and so much that is broken, we search for a glimmer of hope and a spark of inspiration and a sense of resilience. And here I would suggest you'll find it. How had the Jewish people, through all the generations of our persecution, all the generations of oppression, all the generations of exile, how did the Jewish people survive spiritually? How did they survive morally? Why did they never succumb to cynicism? Because every day we stood up and said, today I will be a blessing to the world. Heye bracha. And I know that God who created me, the God who created me has filled me with that capacity and will fill me again. That's the source of Jewish resilience, a deep and profound sense of purpose, a deep and profound sense of our mission in the world, a deep and profound sense in our efficacy, our power to be a blessing. My friends who are teachers, you bear this responsibility more than ever, and more than any of us. For it is your responsibility to teach those who grow in your classrooms, adult or child, that they are to be blessings. And if they are to be blessings, when they are blessings, they will find Shekhinah, they will find the presence of God with them, giving them strength, giving them confidence, giving them hope. And that's what the world needs right now, more than anything else. So, would I recommend this book to my friends? With all my heart. I wish you my congratulations. And thank you for your service to the community, to God, and to the world.